There's some big shakeups at the Walt Disney Corporation. Who's in, who's out, and who's making a Star War?
You may have trouble sneaking your snacks into the screening of The Joker this weekend.
It's October, and we kick off this scary season with our best internet haunts, all that and much more on the Geek State.
It was late one night in the castle of the Chicken McNuggets.
What are you making?
Sauce. We're using my mummy's recipe.
Mummy,
This better be good.
It'll be great.
Does your daddy have a recipe?
Stand by alert.
This is it.
From Maz Kanata to your mama, this is the Geek State.
It's October, so either let's drink German beer or get lost in a spooky house at the end of the street. This is the Geek State, the podcast about all the cool stuff going on in the world of geek. We've got movies and comic book stuff and video games and trailers and all kinds of cool stuff, so we're just going to get things started. My name is Chris, and joining me as always on this adventure through the world of geeks, my buddy James. James, I know you are gearing up for a big race, and you've been practicing and running. Are you still in good enough condition to podcast this evening?
Good enough condition to podcast. I'm sorry, I thought you were going to say, am I good enough condition to run this race? And the answer to that is no. So come late October, you may not hear from me ever again. If that happens, you can send letters to my family, I guess, maybe.
We'll do a special episode, at least. We'll do some sort of tribute if you don't. Remember the good times. Sarah McLachlan will play some songs live, of course, in studio. And we'll play some of, the favorite bits. One
thing to look out for, though, all you S'more Geeks denizens, is I will have one hell of an estate sale. You might want to come to that one.
If you're looking for the complete N64 collection, it will just have to we'll put it up on eBay maybe. No, I think whoever, if something terrible were to happen, I feel like it would only be right for someone to purchase the entire thing. It's not available piecemeal. It's all or nothing.
Take it all or nothing. I agree.
I think that's the truth. Yeah. Last week on the episode, we were feeling pretty good. There was all kinds of good news that dropped, and things seem to be pretty settled in the world of geek. And I did a bad thing. I openly jinxed the show last week by talking about how everything that was gonna happen that week happened, and we just sort of relaxed and rested on our laurels, put out the show, and then I wake up and Spider-Man is back in the MCU. James, what's up with that?
Spider-Man's back in the MCU. They struck a deal finally. Sony and Disney / Marvel. I guess just Disney, not Marvel. But anyways, so I think that I kind of thought this was eventually going to happen. I just didn't know how long it was going to take, because I don't know. I get Sony's position of wanting to make this movie themselves, but in the long run, I don't know. I think it's going to be a very hard market to market this movie as not being part of those other movies, kind of thing. So,
sure.
So they were able to strike a deal. The deal is kind of a 25-75 split situation that's going on. In favor of Sony, I believe, right? Sony's the 75% holder.
Yeah, Disney, from what I've read, Disney was looking for like a 50-50 thing, which, of course, that's blue sky hopefulness. But it looks like Disney's going to put in 25% of the funds to make the next Spider-Man movie, which is due in 2021. That's like a standalone Spider-Man movie. Mm-hmm. And then they continue to hold on to all the merchandising rights. So it's not like poor them. They're only going to make 25% of the gross of the film. They're making money on all the toys and T-shirts and whatnot. But Tom Holland will have in this deal, because they can always renegotiate. He'll have one more opportunity to be in a mainline MCU film, whether that's Doctor Strange, the Eternals. They hold him for another Avengers movie. I'm sure there's like a deadline, like you got to use them by this time or whatnot. I can see Sony
35.
Right, he's lost his charming good looks, and now he's a Peter Porker, I could see them doing something weird where they jump into the multiverse, and that's how they can explain him leaving the MCU. You know, where we kind of see, you know, maybe he goes into a world where Miles Morales, you know, and then that's where we get a new life. You know, that fourth Spider-Man standalone is something they have an out. They could work it.
It's like just you could almost do like a dimensional Spider-Man movie, and he goes to the other dimension and finds a reason to stay there, kind of thing. And then the other one comes here, kind of. He falls in love or something.
Well, I don't know if they can even use any of the like Miles Morales, you know, type alternate Spider-Man, but
yeah, like who owns all that?
From my understanding, Sony owns all of the Spider-Verse from the 90s fire sale that Marvel had when they were basically going bankrupt, and Sony bought Spider-Man and all the related characters in perpetuity. So that happens.
Could you do one and then just make it like its own character? Like it becomes the Iron Spider or something like that. Like, I don't know.
It would have to be something completely brand new in the comics, I think. And then, yeah, but I think wouldn't everybody just be like, well, that's just knockoff Spider-Man? Like if they did Night Monkey, you know, like, like
that's what it is.
It's like, how long will people care as long as it's better? You know, I think that's a valid point. And then kind of in related same company stuff. So Kevin Feige, who is the man behind the MCU, like he is credited as being the producer, you know, big showrunner of the whole thing. And he's a massive Star Wars fan. It was announced kind of not officially, not on StarWars.com, but it was there's quotes from Disney and stuff that ran in the trades that Kevin Feige, along with Kathleen Kennedy, who is of course the president and you know, CEO, basically, you know, the chairman of the, you know, the Lucasfilm lady in charge, that they're going to co-produce a Star Wars. And Kevin Feige will bring upon, I think the quote was like, a new wave of Star Wars storytelling, which has the internet a little bit like, what does this mean about the D.B. Weiss and David Benioff movie and the Rian Johnson movie? Is this a cold kind of soft reboot? Like, we're not going to talk about that anymore. Kevin Feige is the future of Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy is going to go do the Willow sequel, and we're going to get, you know, or prequel or whatever they're, you know, going to do. She's going to go work on the Indiana Jones movie, and she's going to be too busy for Star Wars. She's going to focus her attention someplace else, and Kevin's going to run the thing. And what's interesting, I heard a story, and then today on the Star Wars show, they kind of sort of confirmed it. And I take it back. It is official now because it was revealed on the Star Wars show, which is their official Star Wars kind of, you know, communication thing,
right?
That Kevin is doing Star Wars. And they mentioned how he has a couple of Jabba's sail barge toys from Hasbro. And for those not in the know, that was like a Kickstarter project that you had, if to get this Jabba's sail barge, this toy that everybody has wanted forever. I do not have one because they were $500. You had to get so many people to buy one, and if you could cross that threshold like a Kickstarter, then they'd make it. Well, apparently, and I was watching this for a while, they were getting close but still needed to sell a ton of them. I heard this, there's a rumor, and I've heard it multiple times in multiple places, that Kevin Feige bought many of these sail barges just to make sure that it crossed. Yeah, like, we need to sell 100 more. That's fine.
Right.
I want this. I need this. He's a massive Star Wars fan. So we missed out on all of that. And that's the way it goes. So I am going to, again, say, here, this is all the good stuff that's happening this week. There's no way that, I'm trying to think of something really awesome that could happen.
Yeah, right. There's Aquaman 2 gets a trailer. Oh, is that not awesome?
Yeah, who knew that was going to happen? I mean, it's a good thing that didn't happen this week. Before we move forward, we are in the month of October, and that means it's scary movies and horror films and all that stuff. And I mentioned at the return of the show when we came back from our summer hiatus that I went to Estes Park, Colorado, and stayed at the Stanley Hotel, which is, of course, the hotel that Stephen King stayed at and was inspired to write the book The Shining. And then last night, I went to the big city and saw the 4K remaster of The Shining. And it's been like 15 years since I've seen it. And it was beautiful as far as the recreate, the remaster of it. Everything was very clean. Still, obviously feels dated for the time period and stuff, but still spooky and gets, a couple of scares. There was one moment, James, I'm assuming that you've seen The Shining. I don't want to
No, Chris, I have not actually. So we discussed this.
Okay,
the other
I
day,
won't spoil something then that I was going to say, but there was something else that jumped out at me, and I can't believe it wasn't until last night. There's a scene where a bad guy is chasing the good guy, and the good guy is a kid. I think you understand that there's a child in this movie.
Yes.
All right, good. And he's being chased, and he's running. And he's in the big commercial kitchen, all the stainless steel cabinets and appliances. And the only place he knew to run was to go and get inside one of these stainless steel cabinets. And he tries to close the door, but it doesn't close all the way. And he has to stay really quiet while the bad guy, who's kind of limping along, sneaks right by. And I was like, holy crap, the Jurassic Park kitchen scene is an homage. It has to be. An homage to this scene from The Shining.
That's the first thing I thought of when you said industrial kitchen. I was like, well,
I was leading you down the path because I didn't catch it the first couple of times I've seen this movie, and I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan. So I was like, man, I can't believe how that snuck past me. But I have a story that kind of goes along with going to the movies last night. So let's not kill any more time. Let's jump right into the news. All right, so in the news this weekend, if you're listening to the show, it was a couple days ago, the weekend, and The Joker, which is the new movie starring Joaquin Phoenix and all that, and the controversy surrounding it. There's no red carpet interviews. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Let's pretend that it's the day that this show is being released. James, did you go see The Joker, or are you waiting on this one?
No, I will see it when isn't it on Friday that it releases? I'm so confused.
Yes.
Okay.
I know. We're recording on a Wednesday. We're in the future.
Gotcha.
It opened this past weekend.
Oh, gotcha. Yes, I plan to see it. Whether or not that comes to fruition is another story.
Got it.
But if I don't see it over the weekend, I will see it before we record next time.
Perfect.
So.
I definitely think I will have seen it as well before the next time we record, so we can talk about it. But I got a little spooked the last, just from reading stuff on the internet. There is, the content of the movie and just some of the things that are being, talked about. And last night when I went to go see The Shining, so we bring a bag with us to the movies, because the movie theater's cold, and we bring, because it's in like those reclinings, and we bring a blanket in case it's too cold, and because we're old and gotta keep circulation up and whatever. But really, that bag is a vessel for bringing in treats and stuff into the movies, because you got to have a bag. You can't just stuff them in your pockets, especially when you want to bring in bags of chips and things that don't fit in your pocket. So it's a Tuesday night. Nobody's there. We get in, and immediately the manager is there and is like, we need to look in your bag. And I was like, this has literally never happened before. And I'm like, please God, did I hide all of our good snacks and treats at the bottom of this bag?
Oh no.
And I'm like my good boy, like follow the rules inside me kid is like, oh no, we're going to get busted. They're going to find our Sour Patch Kids.
They're going to arrest us.
I'm going to have to watch this long movie, and I'm going to have to shell out the money for the good treats that are behind that counter that the 16-year-old is in charge of. And so thankfully we kind of we're like, it's a blanket. And then she was like, can you pull it all the way out? And we were like, okay. And we were like real slow trying to pull this blanket out. And she looked into the bag, and the blanket was still kind of in the bag. And she was like, you're good. And she was like, I'm sorry about this, but starting today, we're checking all bags coming into the theater because of the Joker. And I was like, holy crap. So this news story came along. So I can at least verify that one Regal Cinema is doing this. Granted, it was clearly like a manager person. But Alamo Drafthouse has recently announced, and they've got 40 theaters across the country, and I'm sure that others will potentially follow their lead, maybe not to the degree that they are, but they will have additional security personnel present at each location for opening weekend for the comfort of our staff and our guests. This is all from a spokesperson. Additionally, cosplaying will be allowed. However, guests in costume will always be subject to search at the discretion of theater staff at any time, and may be asked to leave for any reason. So what do you think about this? Because I honestly, the more I go to these like big venues and stuff, I do check like where exits are and
right.
And think of, but what's your take on this?
I mean, so I don't know where the origination outside of just the Dark Knight being the last time this happened in a theater. Right. On a national scale, I guess, as far as, so I assume that's where a lot of this is coming from. I don't know if there've been actual threats of any kind. I just haven't heard that in the news. So I don't personally, really pay much attention to it when I'm at a theater, but I also go to the theater at noon on a Sunday, and I'm the only person in there. Right. So it's pretty easy to keep a watch on everybody. But
sure. Yeah. And it's not a packed theater.
It's not a packed theater. Yeah. It's not something like that. But I in general try to not worry about things like that, just because it's, not a way to positively live, I guess. I don't know. I'm one of those.
I get that.
Well, I'm a statistics person, so I know that I'm far, 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 far more likely to die in my car driving to the theater than I would be at the theater, right? So that's kind of the way that I analyze those types of things. But I think it's a little bit sad that we have to do this. I'm upset that I might not be able to take in my candies. But it's certainly not just Alamo Drafthouse, because I know NYPD released a statement saying that they were going to have additional presence at theaters over the weekend. So I don't know. Hopefully nothing happens. Hopefully this is all perfectly good, and this is a deterror to anyone who is attempting to do that. But sure,
it definitely made me rethink my weekend plans as far as like going to see the movie on opening weekend. I was like, you know what? I can wait. I'll wait till Tuesday again.
Right.
And only buy one ticket. Thanks, AT&T. But it's on our list. It's like one of the things I'm looking forward to the most. We were talking about it at work today. Yep. And just like it's rated R, just so everybody knows, like this, and Batman's not in this. Don't take the kids.
I still have no idea what it's about, for the most part. I mean, I get the idea. He's a, comedian, and I guess, Robert De Niro gives him a break on his show and kind of blows up from there, I guess, or gets fame from there. I don't know what happens after that, but, so it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see it. I've heard nothing but good things. So even when digging for bad reviews.
Right. And Todd Phillips is being a jerk on the internet, and, Joaquin Phoenix. I think they noticed that Joaquin Phoenix's kind of attitude was catching a lot of press. And so I think Todd Phillips, whether he's a jerk in real life or not, is kind of playing along with that storyline of just kind of saying like, well, I can't do comedy anymore because you can't joke about stuff or whatever. Right. But anyways, so just so you know, this is really more of a PSA, that if you're going to try to sneak in your candy, this might not be the best weekend to try to sneak in your bag of Tostitos nacho chips just so you can order the $1 cup of cheese and cheat your theater out of $7 or whatever the nachos cost. That's what we do.
Also, I just want to let everyone know that "Weekend to Sneak In" is going to be the first single off of the Geek State debut album, self-titled "Weekend to Sneak In."
It's going to be. We should release a comedy album. It will sell like gangbusters. It'll be amazing.
Right? Everyone loves.
It's a comedy album because it's no funny. Yeah, we're the best. We should be on SNL. Moving forward. What?
Right. Well, while we're sneaking into our candies into the theater, there's a good chance that we might see a couple trailers that of some movies that people have been looking forward to. Being that the Birds of Prey and the fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn released this week. Which I don't know what your thoughts on this trailer were. I don't know what to think of it.
Same.
I don't know what happened. But you know, it looks like they're really playing up the Harley Quinn thing. It looks like it's kind of they've got like kind of Deadpool-ish jokes in there with the very last scene from the trailer. Yes. So I don't know. I don't know what to think of this one. I will say that I don't think I'm going to like this movie, but I will probably see this movie.
I will see this film as well. The fact that they've been promoting it for so long, doesn't usually fare well when they're showing a full trailer type thing. Mm-hmm. Ewan McGregor looks awesome. Yep. I was like, oh, okay, maybe
the title
for that.
I do like the title.
I get it. It is fun. It is definitely a Margot Robbie vehicle. Like, and the fact that they call it Birds of Prey. And then like the subtitle is in the fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, which is impossible to just, acronym it out. You can't say Bird of Prey, ATFEOOHQ.
So that's the first thing I did when the title got released of this. That's the first thing I did was like, what does fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn spell? I was like,
right.
But it doesn't spell anything that I can tell.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. I had to look it up because I was like, well, how is this Birds of Prey? I thought Birds of Prey, those were the good guys. And, you have, so in this though, we do have Black Canary and Huntress and then somebody else that's not Batgirl or the Oracle, that kind of, what would traditionally be in the Bird of Prey, but they've had, people who've come in and out of that little group. Mm-hmm. But apparently it's Harley Quinn. She comes in, recruits these good guys to go try to save some girl from another bad guy. So Harley's kind of in that Suicide Squad kind of position again, where she has to be kind of that anti-hero to go do a good thing that, she's going to have a lot of fun wreaking havoc along the way. So that's Birds of Prey. We got a quick little announcement trailer that Stranger Things 4 is coming, which should be at no surprise to people how well that show has done. And then the tagline, we're not in Hawkins anymore. So that kind of tells you a little bit about where the show is going. It's going to leave the small town of Hawkins, Indiana, and move somewhere. We don't know.
New York City.
And then exactly. Get a rope. Paste pecani sauce. If you're listening other places, you may not have it in your area. Let's see. Oh, and the Kingsman, which I think looks freaking cool. It does worry me that this is again a February movie with full trailers out like so soon. But I really love the first two previous ones. The first one, obviously, more than the second one. But this is set basically what it looks like to be like the origin of the Kingsman organization. And I'm guessing you've seen this one as well, correct? Or
I have not seen this. I have not seen the trailer for this. I've seen the two Kingsman movies, but I have not seen the trailer for this yet. I didn't know it existed. So the show notes.
Yeah. So this one's cool. This one's like set. I want to say World War I era. And there's the spy aspect of it, from the first two movies, it's like, this is a lighter, but it's also a stun gun, or this is not just an umbrella. It's whatever. And there's a scene at the very end of the trailer where he's like, this is a parachute and you can jump out of an airplane with it.
That's awesome.
So it's like so I was like, that's cool. It's got a cool, interesting look. I think it's Ray Fiennes is the main guy, and he's it's kind of similar structure. He's bringing up somebody into this Kingsman organization, but it's called the Kingsman.
I will say, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it.
Yeah,
the Kingsman.
I was just gonna say, I don't think I'm as worried as you about these early trailers for February, just because I think these movies would probably be ready to be released in December, but they're staying the hell out of the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Cats. Cats is coming out.
Cats with Idris Elba and Rebel Wilson's coming out.
James Corden.
James Corden
and Taylor Swift
as Stufficus, I think, is a cat name in that movie. /play.
No surprise.
In other news.
Some cool. What else is going on in the news, James?
Well, we got a little story here, and that is that PlayStation Now has a price drop. The PlayStation Now service is their game streaming service. And they've been trying to nail down pricing for it for quite some time now. It's been very expensive, much more expensive than the competition. I think it was $20, and now it has dropped to $9.99 a month. Obviously, they have structured plans. You do $9.99 a month, $24.99 quarterly, or $59.99 annually. Which at that price, it's much more reasonable. The one place where PlayStation has kind of struggled in this realm, and where Xbox Games Pass has been a little bit better, is that Games Pass, you can just download the game to your service, not stream it. So you download it to your device and then play it off your device. Whereas PlayStation Now, you could only do that on PS4 titles and PS2 titles, but not PS3 titles, which is kind of a little odd. But essentially the way that it worked is it had to be available on the PS4 store for you to download it. Okay. So, but they're catching up on that front. I think the next PlayStation that comes out, PlayStation 5, will be able to run all of these, download them, just like the way Xbox Games Pass does. But they also, I don't think I'm mistaken on this, but PlayStation Now is also now available on PC. So you can, I think there is an app on Windows where you can use your computer. So if you have a gaming rig, you can play PlayStation games now on your computer. And with this announcement, they also announced that God of War, the new God of War, is now available on PlayStation Now. So there you go. Lots of good information there.
Yeah, absolutely. And $10 from, to go from $20 to $10, that moves the needle on the decision making, right? Like I would not have considered $20 a month just to try it out. I'm sure there's a trial maybe.
Yeah.
But to try it out, maybe play some old games that I either have or don't know where they are. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
For them to compete with Stadia, if that's a thing that needs to be competed against, or, like you said, the Xbox Games Pass, $20 is just too steep.
Yeah. And
I feel like it was more than that when they started.
I think it was as well. I'm not positive about that, but I do think it was as well, or at least the annual was more than $99.99. I don't remember, but I do remember it being pretty pricey. And I tried it when it was just the streaming, and it was not very good. So there was latency. And all the games that were available were like fighting games and racing games. And if you have a quarter-second latency on a racing game, you have issues making turns.
Yeah,
properly.
No kidding.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think this is the way that I honestly think this is going to kind of the way of the future. All of the major publishers are coming out with these services. So your EA, Ubisoft, PlayStation, Xbox all have a subscription service, and the premium subscription gets you all their first party games when they first come out. Unfortunately, PlayStation is also behind in this aspect, whereas we're just getting God of War on there. I mean, you could play Gears of War 5 the day it released, actually before it released, for $14 a month. Right. And if you're playing that game for more than a month, you need to get outside. So, because it's like a 10-hour game. So I guess if you play online, if you're one of those nerds, but you put more time in it. But yeah, so I think everyone is kind of seeing how this works for them, and seeing really they're trying to figure out how many people who play games don't pay attention to their credit card statements, and how many people just do not cancel their services, which I think will be a little bit different for them, because it skews younger, and younger folks generally don't have as much money liquid income to spend on things like this. So they will be paying more attention to it. but time will tell. So I think the key the reason subscription services do so well is because people do not unsubscribe from subscription services. So I think that's kind of what they're banking on.
Well, like you said, time will tell. Well, next generation of games and all that stuff is on the horizon. Already starting to see the leaks and stuff for PlayStation 5 and, development consoles and fuzzy photos and, who knows if they're real or not. But you can always come here to the Geek State to find out what's going on in the world of geek each week.
Pick up your visuals, counting.
This is a feature presentation.
And now, on with the show.
All right, so the internet can be a very scary place. And, since it's October, that means, for all of those who are wanting to jump on Netflix and stream the classic horror movies that were there in September and in August and over the summer. Well, guess what? They're all gone because that's what happens. They pull all that stuff, so you have to buy them. But there is a place where we can go to get scared for free. And that's, of course, the internet. And we've scoured the web looking for some nightmare fuel inducing things. And the first place I weirdly started out with was eBay, because I wanted to see if we could find some sort of haunted something that we could purchase for ourselves. And I came across something, James, that I think we might want to consider adding to our collections. I want you to meet...
Our collection of wares.
Yes, I want you to meet... Oh, what's her name? Oh, Lord. So this is Sissy. And Sissy is a child of 7 years old. Now, don't worry, eBay's not selling people. Sissy is a spirit that lives inside of a vessel in the shape of an old Romanian haunted doll.
And it's for sale.
There's...
Sissy's for sale. This is borderline slavery. Like, you're buying a soul. You're buying a vessel. $62.95. You can buy it now. You cannot. It doesn't even have an auction. It's just buy it now.
Yeah, and here's the thing: $20 shipping. You can't submit an offer. It's a hard and fast sale. So if you might be on the fence, here's the story, because Sissy has a rich history. It reads: "It is my privilege to introduce Sissy, a child of only 7 who comes from an investigation in Terlingua, Texas. That's near the border, by the way, in Texas, between the border of Texas and Mexico. They have a big chili festival down there. Daughter to a coal miner, her dad and brothers worked the mines every day. Her father was her favorite person in the world, larger than life, and loved this little girl more than anyone. Suffering from tuberculosis, Sissy passed away before her 8th birthday. Discovered like many of these
Just trying to tighten up this writing. That last sentence is not necessary, as she was a child. It's earlier stated that she was a child of only 7. Just
right. Yes. They're
just trying to tighten up the literature here for whoever wrote this. For eBay seller, I don't see the seller name. It's somewhere in here. But yeah, if they want me to proof any of their stuff, just shoot it my way.
Yeah. So skipping down, so this is, one of those paranormal investigators that have come across this vessel that has harnessed Sissy's spirit. She tells that she has been somewhat lost for what seems like a very long time. Her last keeper, whom she adored, had passed, and with a box and was like in a box of personal items. Let's see. She is quite lovely. She's a bit shy at first, and she loves animals, cats and dogs, especially. So if you're looking and you have cats and dogs, which I know you have many animals.
I have many animals, so she'd fit right in.
Mm-hmm. Her favorite color is purple. Let's see. She's
loves young children.
Yes. There's a picture of her holding a cat. This is her actual photograph. Let's see here.
So what would be more impressive if it was a picture of her holding this doll?
Yes.
However, it is her holding a cat.
Here's some creepy stuff. So this is just to kind of prove Sissy has communicated with my uncle, my father, and myself via a spirit board, which is a Ouija board, a pendulum, and through direct thought communication. She has sat with me while watching TV and has been the culprit behind missing threads. She has shared that one never knows when something needs to be mending. And by missing and my missing pads of butter. Yes, you read that correctly. Sissy has been taking my butter hostage a few times, not the entire stick. Only when the individual pads are available. I believe this to be the direct relation to her mortal years and the poverty she experienced. This is not just some person who found a doll on eBay or at a thrift store and is selling this.
She seems experienced.
And she has sold many. She has, I guess, come across many of these things and has a lot of fans. There's a bunch of reviews. One reading, my biggest regret that I did not find you sooner. I can hardly believe the changes in my life. Thank you. You are by far the best seller on eBay.
Yeah, she is the best seller on eBay because she does notate. She has a notation here that this precious little girl is a little smaller than other dolls in my, quote, temporary keep. However, her temperament and aura make up for this instantly. Underlined, bold, put it down, lock it in instantly.
Yeah, her proven and decade-old approach has never failed me. So, I'm just thinking, like, what would it take? Like, or I guess not what would it take, because it would take $62. What would the response be if you were to bring Sissy home to somebody? Like if they were like, what is that? Oh, it's a 7-year-old girl trapped in that doll over there.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I would never want to touch something like this, not because I think it has a spirit in it, but because I don't know that it doesn't have a spirit in it. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yes, exactly.
There's enough there for me to be slightly concerned that it might have a spirit in it. And I cannot prove that it doesn't. Therefore, there is a possibility that it does.
It is terribly frightening. I've mentioned before that when my Star Wars room gets hot, some of my action figures would fall over, and I can only imagine what my brain would do inside if this thing fell off a counter or off a shelf and without me knowing or by itself. That was freaking crazy. So eBay is full. Just type haunted dolls and you'll find a ton. The next creepy, scary thing, and no, this is not one of those mazes. Like, do you remember the maze? That it was like a trick, and it was like a game, and then you would eventually.
Yes, and it would a zombie would pop out or whatever.
Yeah, it was
like in the screen that would scare you.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Gotcha.
But this is not that, so don't worry. No jump scares here. This is actually from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and you would not think that they would have created something like this. But let me introduce everyone to the Nightmare Machine. It's horror imagery generated by artificial intelligence, and I showed this to James right before the show. James, what are your thoughts? Because they ask you to vote on these images that were created by artificial intelligence to rate whether or not they're scary or not scary.
I'm so in the I guess montage, the what's that called? It starts with a C. Collage.
Yes.
In the collage of pictures, it does look scary. All these different faces that are randomly generated. However, when you go into the button to help their algorithm learn scariness by voting for haunted faces, they do not look scary on their own.
A little bit,
but
yeah.
Zoomed out in the collage, it looks like death, destruction, maiming, lots of blood. It looks like, they are quite scary. However, when you do click the picture, the algorithm, and I assume they send ones that they think are bad to make sure that they're bad before they throw it out. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think, I think they got an idea of what makes a good one, but they're trying to figure out what makes a bad one.
Yeah. Well, and any of these, honestly, and I think it's because some of it is the size of the image that you're presented with. Any of these images, if this were to pop up randomly while watching like this is a funny optical illusion prank on YouTube, and you're like staring really closely at it and it jumped out and screamed, any of these would produce a jump scare. Like, absolutely. Correct. 100%. You can find this at nightmare.mit.edu. So go in there and help some artificial intelligence learn what scares human beings for the one day they take over the earth with their Boston Dynamic robots that, now know what scares all humans.
And I was just thinking about this as we were discussing this Chris, but do you remember a small thing called Peter Answers on the internet?
Oh my gosh.
The line?
That was the coolest thing.
Yeah, well, it still exists and it still works. So for those that don't know what Peter Answers is it is an online tarot or an online, knows everything about anything. And how it works is you ask Peter to allow you to ask it a question by typing like, Peter, please let me ask you a question. I forget what the exact verbiage is, but you type that in. And the only rule is that everyone in the room needs to know the answer to the question in order for Peter to know what the answer is. And then you push a button, you ask the question, hit submit, and it gives you the answer back. And to people who don't know how it works, it blows their mind. It can be like, what color is Sharon's shirt? And it's green. So you type in, Peter, please allow me to ask you a question. What color is Sharon's shirt? And then it responds back green. For people that don't know how it works, no cameras, no nothing, it's hilarious to see their face. However, the person working the keyboard, while they're typing Peter, please answer or whatever, at any point can hit period and then type whatever they want and then hit period. And on the screen, it shows up as Peter, please allow me to ask you the following question. But what it's doing is you're typing in the answer and then you hit period again and then just finish the sentence. And then Peter responds back with whatever you typed in between the periods. It is a lot of fun to show old people. They might take the computer and throw it out the window, but it is fun to show them.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to prank people with.
And this is such an old internet prank that I think even young people, this is not in the zeitgeist. Like they don't understand. They have never seen this.
Right. Yeah. This was like 2007. I was in college. It was great. The one thing that you have to steer away from is you have to tell people that it doesn't do phone numbers because, if you're typing in the numpad or up at the top row, if people are watching, they can pay attention to that. So, but you have
to guide the conversation.
Mine was the answer has to be either a noun or an adjective. Is what I would tell people. Noun or adjective.
It's a good one. It's a really good one. So again, it's October. It's Scary Movie Month. We're going to do a show about scary movies coming up pretty soon. But so kind of lead into that, James, I wanted to test you a little bit. Not that you're a horror movie aficionado, but, famously, horror movies have some of the best taglines of the film. And I wanted to read you the tagline and see if you can guess the movie. You up for that?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I am up for that.
Okay. So I feel like this one's pretty easy. Okay. This one is The Monster Demands a Mate.
Zach and Mary make a porno.
It's a good guess. It's The Bride of Frankenstein from 1935.
I was going to say The Bride of Chucky, which I also would have been wrong, but
that might have been it too. Here's another one. When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
Would this be George Romero's Dawn of the Dead?
It would be 1978. It's exactly. Here's an easy one. Okay. In space, no one can hear you scream.
Oh, that's Alien.
Yes.
That one's easy. That's like the most famous tagline of all time, I think. Is there a more famous tagline?
I don't think so. I feel like that one is probably the best. Oh, let's see.
Maybe it was a little off color, but when the Passion of the Christ had, the end of the story, that was a little weird, but
let's see. Here's a good one. This is one of my favorite horror movies. And the tagline is everything you've heard is true.
Ooh, everything you've heard is true. I have no idea.
It's the Blair Witch Project.
Ouija. The Blair Witch. That's a good one too. Because
it's a really good one.
It was very. Yeah.
Let's do one more. Let's see here. Trapped in time, surrounded by evil, low on gas.
Low on gas.
I will say, I'll give you
time, surrounded by evil, low. Evil Dead.
It's in that. I was gonna say it's
Army of Darkness.
There it is. I was gonna give you a hint and say we did an old movie crash of the original film. So, yeah, So we would love to know what your favorite horror movies, scary movies, Halloween, what are your things? Tell us on Twitter, Facebook, on Instagram, and then be looking out for our Halloween episode where we're going to dive into horror movies, maybe stuff that you've never heard of, some things that we can stream and find and enjoy this joyous season together while celebrating Oktoberfest at the same time.
Let's look around the region and take our pick of the week.
Shut up and take my money.
Every week we like to point you in the direction of something cool in our pick of the week. And because it's not the 23rd episode, which by tradition means I go, it's time for James to go. That's how we're doing it,
okay.
Right?
You know what? I will go, but I'm not going to change the subject off of what we were just talking about being horror movies, which I guess this isn't really a horror movie, but does have some jump scares and does have some shock value. But my pick is Brightburn, which is a movie that recently came out, produced by James Gunn. I think it was written by his brother and his cousin. I might be mistaken about that.
Which we've met, no big deal. Friend of the show.
Different brother. Brother.
Well, he's brother of a friend of the show, Sean.
Yeah, right. Yeah, not Sean Gunn. It's like Brian Gunn and something else. But anyways, it's a great movie. I really enjoyed it. I kind of had low expectations because I didn't know what to, I didn't know what was. I knew what it was going to be about, but I didn't know any of the plot points or anything like that, and hadn't heard anything about it. And it didn't have a very long stint in theaters, so I didn't know what I was getting into, but. Kind of my one-line synopsis of this movie would be Smallville, but Superman kills things. Is kind of how it works. So I would definitely recommend it. It's a super good movie. Very interesting.
That is on my list now because I was intrigued. It looked interesting, but again, I kind of didn't know. But now it has James's stamp of approval, so it is back on the list.
It's in there.
Yeah. So it's the fall again, and television has started back up. And one of the shows I always at least check out the first few episodes of to see if it hooks me. And only a few have. I would say I do love American Horror Story, and I specifically love the Coven season. I liked last season. I didn't love it. But American Horror Story 1984 is the current iteration of the show. And of course, it's anthology based. So if you've not seen any of the other seasons, it's fine. You can jump in on this. The premise is it's, of course, set in 1984. It takes place, at least for right now, at a summer camp, which, for those who know, I am quite familiar with how summer camps function. And you have to kind of just let it go that the fact that this is a summer camp that only hired 5 counselors, for the summer and 4 of them.
Very small summer camp.
Yeah, there is only one boys' cabin and one girls' cabin, but here's the thing. Here's the one thing that bugged me the most as just someone in the profession. I was like, wait a minute. So this one guy who is hired to work at the summer camp, recruits the day before leaving to go to camp 4 of his friends to join him. And when they arrive, they're like, are we the only counselors? And she's like, yeah, with the Olympics going on in Los Angeles this year, all the temporary seasonal workers have gone there. So y'all are it. It's like, okay. It's a very slasher type vibe. It's got some elements from the 80s with the Night Stalker. So some kind of true life kind of stuff that's in there. There's some interesting developments in the last episode, and I am excited with this one. It's got a really interesting vibe. It's taken what worked really well for Stranger Things with the whole 1980s and that setting, and the nostalgia, the music, the soundtrack's great. It's got some interesting. The premise is that in the 1970s, this guy who was a Vietnam vet slaughtered everybody at this camp, and he's been locked away in an insane asylum. Stop me if you've heard this story before around a campfire. I was like, this is a classic. He only
comes back every 5 years.
Yeah. And apparently, so he broke out and he's wreaking havoc so far on the show. So, but, a lot of interesting big theories I've been reading and stuff. So I'm on board until it loses me. Kind of two other, I got two other kind of stamp of approval. In the same vein as American Horror Story, because it's the same guy that created it. The Politician on Netflix, I really enjoyed. I binge watched that whole first season. And last week I had just gotten Vader Immortal, episode 2 for the Oculus Quest. And I gotta say, it is really cool to be able to reach out with your hand, grab a rock, and throw it at that giant Rancor thing. I know it's not a Rancor, but it looks just like one. It's just got 4 arms. It's really cool and interesting story. And I'm getting the impression that it's going to be like a 3-parter. So kind of to see like where it goes after this. I'm sure we'll have to wait a few months to get episode 3, but definitely worth the $10 for about 45-minute. If you kind of rush it, if you kind of just go through the whole thing really quick, it takes about 45 minutes to play the whole thing. But you could obviously stop and look around and kind of explore a little bit. There's a really terrifying part, James, where you're being chased by that Rancor and you're having to climb up a wall and maneuver kind of like Uncharted style, jump from this thing to that thing, and disorienting. You're at there's a bottomless pit below you. Of course, it's Star Wars, so definitely if you've got an Oculus Quest, I can't imagine you haven't already picked this up. So some good stuff. Hope everybody stays safe out there. And obviously have your mom check the candy when you go trick or treating. And all that stuff. But it's the beginning of October. Let us know what your favorite horror movies are, what your favorite scary movies are, maybe what are your Halloween traditions, what are you dressing up for Halloween, all that good stuff. And that about does it for the show. I hope we don't go to bed tonight and get nightmares, James, because gonna have to close out that nightmare tab. Oof. On the browser.
Oh, I was like, the nightmare tab. I was like, I don't even know what that means. Do I owe somebody nightmares?
Yeah. Anyways, that's about it we have for the show today. Make sure you like us on Facebook, join us over on Twitter, join the conversation, like us on, follow us along on Instagram, and from all of us, me, James, of course, stay excellent to each other, and we'll see you next time.
I paid for it fair and square.
I know. Just let me remove the security tag.
It's a frame-up, a fix. You ain't taking me back to the slammer, John Law.
Knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Look at that. A quick, very nice, concise 50 minutes.
Look at it.